The grass tasted like rusted wire. Vale chewed until his gums bled. The villagers around him did the same. They crouched beneath a gray sky, wrapped in torn coats and rotting blankets, tearing fistfuls of frostbitten weeds from the mud. Every mouth moved slowly. Every throat fought to swallow. Children cried, without tears, because their bodies had no water left to waste. This was not food. It was punishment disguised as survival. The famine had stripped Blackridge Village clean. The grain sheds were empty. The wells had become shallow pits of black sludge. The chickens had vanished first. Then the dogs. Then the rats. Even the bark had been peeled from the trees and boiled into bitter soup. Now, only grass remained, and soon, even that would be gone. Ethan knelt near the frozen field with a bundle of yellow weeds pressed against his chest. His fingers were purple. His lips were cracked. His stomach felt as if a starving animal were clawing through his flesh from the inside. A shadow fell over him. His elder cousin, Marcus, kicked the bundle from his arms. The grass scattered across the mud. Ethan looked up. Marcus wore a thick wool coat. A coat purchased with the last silver coins Ethan's father had left behind. Behind Marcus stood Aunt Lydia and her daughter, Clara. Their cheeks were thin, but they were not hollow. Their eyes still had light. They had been eating in secret. Ethan had always known. In his previous life, he had discovered the hidden grain beneath their floorboards only after his body had become too weak to stand. By then, it had been too late. Marcus stepped on Ethan's hand. Bones ground against frozen earth. "You collected too much." Ethan's face twisted, but he made no sound. Marcus leaned down and smiled. "My mother said each person gets one handful. Are you trying to steal from the village?" A murmur spread through the field. Dozens of starving faces turned toward Ethan. Suspicion appeared faster than compassion. That was what hunger did. It devoured reason before it devoured flesh. "I gathered this myself," Ethan said. His voice was dry and weak. Marcus pressed harder. "And the land belongs to everyone." Aunt Lydia covered her mouth with a theatrical gasp. "How selfish." "We are all suffering, yet you still think only of yourself." Clara hugged her arms and stared at Ethan with disgust. "He has always been greedy." Ethan almost laughed. In his previous life, he had handed them everything. His father's house. His mother's necklace. The hidden sack of beans beneath the chimney. Even the strip of dried meat he had found inside an abandoned hunter's cabin. He had given it all to them. Aunt Lydia had cried and called him her precious nephew. Clara had promised she would remember his kindness forever. Marcus had slapped his shoulder and called him a brother. Then, when Ethan collapsed from hunger, they locked him outside. He had crawled to the door. He had begged for a spoonful of porridge. From inside, he heard laughter. He smelled roasted meat. Marcus had opened the window and poured greasy dishwater onto Ethan's head. "You are already dying," Marcus had said. "Why waste food?" Aunt Lydia had told him to stop scratching the door because the sound was annoying. Clara had worn Ethan's mother's necklace while watching him freeze. His final sight had been their shadows moving behind the curtains. His final feeling had not been hunger. It had been shame. Shame that he had trusted them. Shame that he had mistaken blood for loyalty. Shame that he had died like a dog beneath the window of his own home. Then darkness swallowed him. When Ethan opened his eyes again, he was kneeling in the field. The same field. The same grass. The same frozen hand beneath Marcus's boot. The same morning from weeks before his death. For a heartbeat, Ethan had thought hell was forcing him to relive his humiliation. Then a cold voice had spoken inside his mind. Modern supermarket access confirmed. Ownership bound to Ethan Vale. Inventory limitless. Currency conversion active. Entry point available through any private door. Ethan's heart had stopped. Images flashed before his eyes. Rows of polished shelves. Warm lights. Fresh bread. Bottled water. Canned meat. Rice. Fruit. Medicine. Chocolate. Frozen meals. Pizzas covered in cheese. Pepperoni. Mushrooms. Sausage. And thick red sauce. Enough food to make kings weep. Enough food to buy armies. Enough food to turn starving men into obedient beasts. The supermarket was endless, untouched, silent. Waiting for him, Marcus twisted his heel. Did you hear me? Ethan returned to the present. Pain crawled through his hand. The villagers stared. Aunt Lydia waited for him to protest. Clara waited for him to beg. Marcus waited for fear. Ethan gave them none of it. Instead, he smiled. It was a small smile, calm. Almost gentle. Marcus frowned. What is funny? Nothing, Ethan said. He pulled his hand free and slowly stood. His knees trembled from starvation, but his eyes remained still. I was thinking about how generous you are. Marcus narrowed his eyes. Aunt Lydia stepped forward. If you understand your mistake, apologize. Ethan bent down and gathered the muddy grass. He placed the entire bundle at Marcus's feet. A shocked silence followed. Marcus stared at the weeds. All of it? All of it? Ethan looked toward Aunt Lydia. You are right. We should share. Her expression softened with greedy satisfaction. I knew you would come to your senses. Clara snatched the bundle before anyone else could touch it. You should have done this from the beginning. Ethan nodded. In his previous life, those words had cut him. Now, they felt like the squeaking of rats inside a wall. Annoying. Temporary. Easy to silence. Marcus grabbed Ethan by the collar and pulled him close. You still owe the village an apology. Ethan looked into his cousin's eyes. He saw arrogance, stupidity. The absolute confidence of a man who believed tomorrow would resemble today. Marcus did not know that the Eastern grain convoy would never arrive. He did not know that the mountain pass had already collapsed. He did not know that the regional governor had sealed the roads and ordered soldiers to shoot starving refugees on sight. He did not know that within days, Blackridge Village would begin eating corpses. Ethan knew. He remembered every scream. Every betrayal. Every door that closed. Every hand that reached for another person's throat over a spoonful of flour. He remembered Marcus beating an old man to death for hiding a potato. He remembered Aunt Lydia trading 2 orphaned girls to traveling mercenaries for a sack of oats. He remembered Clara smiling as she lied about a widow stealing food, causing the villagers to drag the innocent woman into the snow. They thought they were cruel now. They had not yet discovered what hunger would make them become. Ethan's smile deepened. I apologize, he said. Marcus released him with a satisfied grunt. To whom? Clara asked. Ethan looked across the field. To everyone. Several villagers nodded. Some sneered. Others looked disappointed that he had surrendered so easily. The village elder, a skeletal man wrapped in fox fur, raised his staff. Let this be a lesson. No one may hoard food. Any hidden provisions belong to Blackridge. Ethan lowered his head. A perfect image of obedience. Inside, something cold sharpened. In his previous life, that rule had only applied to the weak. When the elder's cellar was discovered, it contained smoked fish, honey, wine, and sacks of grain. The elder had claimed they were emergency supplies. Then he had ordered the witnesses hanged for theft. Ethan remembered the location of every hidden cellar, every buried jar, every secret storehouse. But he no longer wanted them. Rotten grain meant nothing to a man who owned a modern supermarket. The villagers returned to clawing at the earth. Marcus carried Ethan's grass to his family. Aunt Lydia praised him loudly. Clara divided the weeds, keeping the softest shoots for herself. No one noticed Ethan walking away. No one cared. That was exactly what he wanted. He returned to the house his father had built. The roof sagged beneath old snow. The front door hung crooked on its hinges. Aunt Lydia's family had occupied the warm rooms, forcing Ethan to sleep in the woodshed. They called it a fair arrangement because he was unmarried and young. In his previous life, he had accepted it. This time, Ethan walked past the main entrance and entered the woodshed without hesitation. The space smelled of wet timber and mold. A broken cot stood against the wall. His possessions fit inside a cracked wooden box. 2 shirts. A dull knife. A pair of worn boots. A faded portrait of his parents. Ethan placed the portrait face down, not because he hated them, because he could not afford softness. Softness had buried him once. He would not allow it to touch him again. He closed the woodshed door. Silence gathered. Ethan gripped the handle. Open. The rotten wood vanished. Warm golden light spilled across the floor. Beyond the doorway stood a place that should not exist. Clean white tiles stretched beneath endless rows of shelves. Cold glass cases hummed. The air smelled of bread, coffee, sugar, roasted chicken, and melted cheese. Ethan stood motionless. His body reacted before his mind did. Saliva flooded his mouth. His stomach cramped so violently that he nearly fell. He stepped inside. The door closed behind him. A translucent panel appeared in the air. Welcome, owner. All products are continuously replenished. Items may be purchased using recognized currency, converted valuables, or earned supermarket credit. Owner privileges activated. Private consumption discount activated. Storage function activated. Time suspension within storage activated. Ethan reached toward a bottle of water. His fingers shook, not from wonder. From restraint. A starving man could kill himself by eating too quickly. He remembered seeing it happen. So he chose carefully. Water first. Small sips. Then an electrolyte drink. Then soft bread. Then soup. He sat on the spotless floor and drank slowly. Warmth spread through his chest. His body screamed for more. He ignored it. Control was the difference between a survivor and a corpse. After the soup, he opened a package of sliced turkey and ate piece by piece. Then, he found the pizza counter. Behind the glass rested round masterpieces covered in bubbling cheese. Pepperoni curled at the edges. Oil shimmered beneath the lights. Steam rose from the crust. Ethan stared at it. Outside, the villagers were chewing grass. Marcus was likely eating Ethan's muddy weeds, while pretending they tasted sweet. Aunt Lydia was probably hiding her private grain. Clara was probably complaining that her portion was too small. Ethan selected a large meat pizza. The system deducted a tiny amount of credit, granted through his ownership privilege. He carried the box to a small seating area. When he lifted the lid, the scent struck him like a hammer. His eyes burned, not from gratitude. From rage. He remembered dying outside his own house while his relatives ate. He remembered licking frozen grease from the ground. He remembered begging. Never again. Ethan took a bite. Cheese stretched between the slice and his mouth. The crust cracked. Hot sauce touched his tongue. For several seconds, the entire world disappeared. No famine. No village. No betrayal. Only warmth. Only salt. Only meat. Only the brutal proof that fate had finally placed a blade in his hand. Ethan ate slowly. Each bite became a funeral. One for the fool he had been. One for the kindness that had killed him. One for the family name he had once treasured. When he finished, he wiped his mouth and began walking through the store. Food was only the beginning. There were tools, batteries, flashlights, portable heaters, blankets, medicine, seeds, weapons hidden among kitchen supplies and hardware. There were cameras, locks, fuel cans, solar panels, radios. Every shelf was a possibility. Every product was leverage. Every starving person outside was a future customer, servant, soldier, spy, or corpse. Ethan opened the system interface. A map of Blackridge appeared. The village homes glowed faintly. Several hidden caches were marked in red. Aunt Lydia's floorboards. The elder's cellar. Marcus's buried meat. Clara's jewelry box. Ethan studied each location. Then another symbol appeared beneath the village chapel. Restricted emergency vault. Danger level rising. Ethan's eyes narrowed. He remembered the chapel collapsing during a riot. He remembered the strange black smoke that poured from beneath it. He remembered villagers vanishing in the night. At the time, everyone blamed hunger. Now the system displayed a warning. Contaminated relic detected. Exposure may cause violent mutation. Estimated activation approaching. So that was it. The famine had never been the true disaster, it had only been the door. Something worse was waiting beneath the village. Something Marcus and the others would awaken with their greed. Ethan closed the map. He selected water filters, canned food, medicine, rope, a heavy axe, several knives, thick clothing, and airtight storage containers. He stored everything inside the system space. Then he picked up another pizza. Not because he was hungry. Because he wanted the smell. He returned to the woodshed. The supermarket vanished when the door opened. Cold darkness surrounded him again. Ethan placed the pizza box on the broken table and lifted the lid. The rich aroma escaped through the cracks in the walls. Footsteps stopped outside. Clara's voice came from the yard. "What is that smell?" Ethan sat down. He chose a slice. A slow smile touched his lips. The famine had taken everything from Blackridge. Soon, the villagers would crawl for crumbs. His relatives would cry. The elder would kneel. Marcus would claw at the door until his fingers split. But Ethan would not open it. Not yet. First, he would let them believe he was still weak. First, he would let them steal every poisoned opportunity they could reach. First, he would watch them build their own gallows. Then he would give them exactly what they had given him: a closed door, a warm room beyond it, and the smell of food they would never taste. Clara stood outside the woodshed, sniffing like a starving hound. The scent of roasted meat slipped through the cracks. Cheese, pepperoni, warm bread, things that no longer existed in Blackridge. Her hand struck the door. Ethan. Inside, Ethan folded the pizza box and placed it inside the supermarket storage. The smell remained. That was enough. Clara knocked again, harder. "Open the door." Ethan waited until impatience sharpened her voice. Then he opened it. Cold wind rushed into the woodshed. Clara pushed past him without permission. Her eyes searched the broken table, the floor, the cot, the corners. Nothing. Only damp wood. Mold. A rusted bucket. A few strands of grass. She turned toward him. "What were you eating?" "Grass." "Do not lie to me." Ethan leaned against the wall. "You saw Marcus take everything I gathered." Clara's face tightened. "That smell was not grass. Then perhaps hunger is making you imagine things." Her eyes flashed. She slapped him. The sound cracked through the woodshed. Ethan's head turned slightly. He tasted blood. In his previous life, that slap would have filled him with hurt. Now he studied her hand, thin fingers, dirty nails, a silver ring stolen from his mother's jewelry box. He remembered those fingers closing the curtain while he died outside. He smiled. Clara stepped back. "Why are you looking at me like that?" "Like what?" "Like you know something." "I know you are hungry." Her stomach growled. Loudly. Humiliation colored her cheeks. She grabbed his shirt. "If you found food, it belongs to the family." Ethan glanced at the ring. Family. Yes. The word sounded obscene in her mouth. Clara lifted her chin. "My mother fed you after your parents died. Marcus protected you. We gave you a place to sleep. You gave me a woodshed. You should be grateful you have a roof." Ethan nodded slowly. "You are right." Clara paused. She had expected resistance. Resistance gave her an excuse to scream. An apology deprived her of pleasure. "You will search for food tomorrow," she said. "There are rumors that wild roots still grow beyond the northern ridge." The northern ridge. Ethan remembered it well. A hunting party had vanished there in his previous life. The survivors returned days later, with black veins beneath their skin. They killed their own families before the village burned their bodies. Aunt Lydia knew the danger. That was why she wanted Ethan to go. "I will search," Ethan said. Clara's suspicion softened into satisfaction. "And anything you find comes to us first." "Of course." She walked toward the door. Before leaving, she turned. "If you are hiding food, Marcus will find it." Ethan wiped blood from his lip. "I hope he tries." Clara stared at him. Then she left. The door closed. Warm light appeared behind Ethan. He stepped into the supermarket. The slap had cost Clara more than she could imagine. Ethan entered the medical aisle. He treated the cut on his lip, swallowed vitamins, and prepared another controlled meal. His body remained weak. Starvation could not be erased in a night, but the supermarket offered more than food. It offered recovery without limit. Protein drinks, mineral supplements, medicine, clean water, warmth. Ethan created a schedule. Small meals, frequent rest, measured exercise. No waste, no indulgence beyond what served a purpose. His body would become stronger. His mind was already ahead of everyone in Blackridge. The system opened a private owner interface. Daily credit reward available. Emergency survival challenge detected. Objective: establish a secure supply chain. Reward: expanded storage and product conversion. Ethan accepted. The first task required him to collect local materials and exchange them for supermarket credit. At first glance, the reward seemed laughable. Dry wood, iron scraps, animal bones, medicinal plants, common objects from a dying village. Yet, the conversion rates were not common. A bundle of firewood could purchase several loaves of bread. A rusted farming tool could purchase medicine. A silver ornament could purchase enough rice to feed a family for weeks. Ethan looked toward the silver ring on Clara's finger in his memory. His smile returned. The supermarket did not value sentiment. Neither did he. Before dawn, Ethan left the woodshed wearing his old clothes. Beneath them, he wore thermal layers from the supermarket. His boots were lined with thick modern socks. A compact knife rested against his ankle. A steel hatchet remained hidden inside storage. He carried an empty basket. To anyone watching, he looked weaker than yesterday. That illusion was useful. Aunt Lydia waited in the kitchen. Steam rose from a pot. She quickly covered it when Ethan entered. The air smelled of grain. Her hidden stock had been opened. Marcus sat near the fire with a wooden bowl in his hands. Clara ate beside him. Their portions were thin, but they were real porridge. Ethan received nothing. Aunt Lydia pressed a hand to her chest. "I wish we had enough for you." Ethan looked at the pot. "You do." Marcus placed his bowl down. "Watch your mouth." Aunt Lydia sighed. "This food is for those who contribute most to the family." Marcus gathers firewood. "Clara helps me maintain the house." "You brought us only grass." "The grass you took. We shared it fairly." Ethan looked at the bowls. No grass floated inside them. Only grain. Aunt Lydia followed his gaze. Her voice became softer. "More dangerous. The village survives through sacrifice. You are young. You can endure hunger better than we can." Clara nodded. "Mother has a weak heart." Marcus lifted his sleeve and revealed a shallow cut on his arm. "I was injured collecting wood." The wound was barely more than a scratch. Ethan remembered Marcus receiving it while breaking open a widow's fence. He had stolen the wood and claimed he found it abandoned. Aunt Lydia poured the remaining porridge into Marcus's bowl. "Your cousin risks his life for us." Marcus ate with deliberate slowness. Ethan watched. The scene was designed to humiliate him. They wanted him angry. They wanted him desperate. They wanted him to beg for the burnt grains clinging to the bottom of the pot. Instead, Ethan picked up the empty basket. "You are right." Marcus stopped chewing. Ethan continued. "I have not contributed enough." Aunt Lydia smiled. "I am glad you understand. I heard the chapel needs volunteers." The room became silent. Marcus's spoon froze. Clara looked at her mother. The village elder had announced that the chapel storehouse would be opened. Volunteers were needed to clear debris from the underground chamber. Rumors claimed the chamber held old emergency grain. In Ethan's previous life, the entire village had fought for the right to enter. The elder promised that volunteers would receive the largest shares. Marcus had crushed a man's fingers beneath a stone to secure his place. He had returned carrying a sack of pale grain and laughing like a king. For several days, Aunt Lydia's family feasted. Then the nightmares began, then the voices, then the blood beneath their fingernails. Ethan knew the grain was contaminated. The black relic below the chapel had poisoned everything near it. Those who ate the grain did not simply become sick, they became vessels. Aunt Lydia hid her excitement poorly. The chapel? Ethan nodded. I can volunteer. Perhaps they will reward me with food. Marcus stood quickly. You are too weak. His concern was false. His greed was not. Ethan lowered his eyes. Then perhaps you should go. Marcus studied him. A trap offered too easily would frighten an intelligent man. Marcus was not intelligent. He only needed his pride touched. Ethan added quietly, though the work may be dangerous. Marcus laughed. You think I fear a collapsed cellar? No. You think you deserve the reward more than I do? No. Then stay out of my way, Aunt. Lydia placed a hand on Marcus's shoulder. My son is strong. The village respects him. He should represent our family. Clara frowned at Ethan. You only want to take advantage of the elder's generosity. Ethan bowed his head. Then I will search the northern ridge instead. The three of them relaxed. The opportunity had been transferred. The poisoned cup had been placed in Marcus's hands. He was already thirsty. After leaving the house, Ethan walked toward the village square. The chapel bell rang. Villagers gathered beneath its cracked tower. The elder stood on the steps. Behind him waited armed guards wearing leather coats and hungry expressions. My beloved people, the elder announced, our ancestors prepared for dark times. Murmurs spread through the crowd. The elder raised both hands. Beneath this holy ground lies a reserve of grain. The square erupted. People cried. Some fell to their knees. A mother lifted her starving child and thanked the heavens. The elder allowed hope to grow before tightening the chain. The chamber is unstable. Brave volunteers must clear the passage. Those who serve will be rewarded according to their contribution. Men pushed forward. Women screamed their names. Fights began before the elder finished speaking. Ethan stood at the edge of the crowd. Marcus shoved through the villagers and raised his arm. I volunteer. The elder smiled. Of course he did. Marcus had secretly served the elder for months, stealing from abandoned homes and reporting hidden supplies. The public announcement was theater. Marcus's place had already been promised. He looked back and found Ethan. Triumph filled his face. He believed he had stolen salvation from his cousin. Ethan gave him an envious expression. Marcus grinned wider. The hook sank deeper. While the village crowded around the chapel, Ethan slipped away. He followed the road north. Once the houses disappeared behind the hills, he changed direction. The northern ridge was bait. His true destination was the abandoned iron quarry west of Blackridge. No one visited it. The mine had closed after several workers died in a collapse. Villagers whispered that ghosts wandered through the tunnels. Ethan preferred ghosts to relatives. He entered the quarry through a narrow cut in the rock. Then, he opened his storage. A modern lantern illuminated the darkness. A steel pickaxe appeared in his hands. The supermarket challenge required local materials. The quarry offered them in abundance: iron, stone, coal, old tools, broken rails, copper wire left behind by forgotten machinery. Ethan began to work. His recovering body tired quickly. The supermarket solved that problem. Water, food, pain relief, warm clothing, rest inside a private supply room where no one could see him. He worked until his palms split. He bandaged them. He worked again. Every load entered storage without weight. Every piece of metal became credit. The first exchange unlocked a larger inventory. The next unlocked automatic sorting. The next increased conversion value. The rewards began to multiply. A rusted rail became canned meat. A pile of broken tools became antibiotics. Copper wire became batteries. Coal became flour. Stone became salt. By midday, Ethan's storage held enough food to feed Blackridge for many weeks. By evening, it held enough medicine to make the village healer look like a child mixing mud. By nightfall, the challenge advanced. Supply chain established. Hidden warehouse function unlocked. Owner credit income increased. Local trade interface unlocked. Ethan did not stop. He found an old equipment chamber sealed behind fallen beams. Inside were crates of metal fittings, lantern parts, preserved rope, and mining tools. The villagers considered them worthless. The supermarket did not. Credit flooded the interface. One reward became several. Several became dozens. Dozens became hundreds. The owner privileges expanded. Cold storage unlocked. Agricultural products unlocked. Construction materials unlocked. Security products unlocked. Ethan stood alone beneath the mountain while invisible wealth gathered around him. Outside, Blackridge starved. Inside his storage, shelves filled with rice, flour, canned fish, dried fruit, medicine, fuel, tools, blankets, and weapons. He could have fed everyone. He felt no temptation to do so. Food given without chains would only strengthen his enemies. Mercy without control was stew. Then he studied the local trade interface. It showed demand across the village. Bread had become more valuable than silver. Medicine had become more valuable than land. Salt could purchase loyalty. Sugar could purchase secrets. A single hot meal could purchase a person's dignity. Ethan would not sell openly, not yet. He would release crumbs through hidden channels. Enough to build dependence, never enough to create security. The villagers would learn that food existed somewhere beyond their reach. They would whisper. They would betray one another. They would bring him valuables, information, weapons, and names. And they would never know that the quiet man in the woodshed controlled the source. A sound echoed from the quarry entrance. Ethan extinguished the lantern. Footsteps scraped against stone. A small figure entered the tunnel. It was a girl from the village, Mara. She was barely old enough to carry the basket hanging from her shoulder. Her younger brother had been feverish for days. Their mother was dead. Their father had vanished during the first food riot. In Ethan's previous life, Mara had given him half a rotten turnip. It had been the last thing she owned. Days later, Marcus accused her of stealing grain. The villagers beat her to death. Ethan watched from the shadows. Mara stumbled and fell. Her basket spilled. Inside were gray mushrooms. Poisonous. She was gathering them because she had nothing else. Ethan stepped into the light. Mara gasped, "Please do not take them." Ethan looked at the mushrooms. "They will kill you. My brother is hungry. They will kill him first." Her lips trembled. "Then what should I do?" Ethan studied her. Kindness had no value by itself. Loyalty did. Potential did. A person who shared while starving was either a fool or someone rare enough to be useful. Ethan removed a wrapped energy bar from storage and tossed it to her. Mara caught it clumsily. She stared at the bright package. "What is this?" "Food." Her eyes widened. She began tearing at the wrapper. Ethan caught her wrist. "Not here." Fear returned to her face. "What do you want?" "Information." "I do not know anything." "Everyone knows something." He released her. "Eat half. Give the rest to your brother. Return tomorrow with every rumor you hear about the chapel." Mara looked at the bar. "Why?" "Because the grain beneath it is not salvation." A distant bell rang from Blackridge. Then another. Then cheering rolled across the valley. The chamber had been opened. The grain had been found. Marcus would be standing beside the elder, covered in dust, accepting praise. Aunt Lydia would call him the savior of their family. Clara would look at Ethan with pity and contempt. They would eat that night. They would feast while the rest of the village begged. And beneath the chapel, the black relic would begin to wake. Mara whispered, "What is beneath the chapel?" Ethan looked toward the distant tower. "Something hungry." The cheering continued. Ethan smiled. Blackridge believed the famine had ended. In truth, the first course had just been served. Mara returned before sunrise. Snow clung to her hair. Her cheeks were blue from cold, but her eyes were sharper than before. The energy bar had changed something inside her. Not her hunger, her hope. Hope was dangerous. It made people reckless. Ethan opened the quarry passage and let her enter. Mara held out a scrap of cloth covered in charcoal marks. "I wrote everything I heard. Ethan took it. The villagers had celebrated through the night. The elder distributed only a few bowls of chapel grain, claiming the rest needed to be measured and protected. Marcus received an entire sack. Aunt Lydia cooked until the windows steamed. Clara invited several young men to watch her family eat. She wanted witnesses. Hunger had made food more beautiful than jewels. The family laughed loudly while neighbors stood outside and swallowed their saliva. They believed they had become nobles. Mara pointed toward one of the marks. People who ate the grain had strange dreams. What kind? They heard scratching beneath the chapel. Ethan's expression remained still. Anything else? Old Miller woke with blood in his mouth. He said his teeth felt loose. The contamination was spreading faster than before. Perhaps the relic sensed the supermarket. Perhaps his return had changed the course of events. It did not matter. He had already changed more. Ethan placed bread, medicine, canned soup, and clean water into a small cloth bundle. Mara stared at it. Her hands shook. This is too much. It is an investment. In what? You. She looked up. Ethan stepped closer. You will listen to every argument. You will remember who hides food. You will learn which guards drink, which villagers steal, and which homes have cellars. Mara hugged the bundle. And if I fail, you will not receive another. Her face tightened. And if I succeed, your brother lives. That answer chained her more securely than kindness ever could. Mara nodded. Ethan handed her a thin silver whistle. If someone follows you, blow this once. What happens then? I decide whether they are useful. She did not ask what happened if they were not. The girl was learning. After she left, Ethan opened the supermarket interface. His accumulated credit had reached a threshold. A new privilege appeared. Owner workshop unlocked. The supermarket wall opened. Beyond it waited a room filled with tools, metal cutters, welders, drills, saws, protective equipment. Machines that Blackridge could not have imagined. Ethan placed a rusted mining cart inside the conversion chamber. The system separated it into usable steel. Broken lanterns became copper. Cracked rails became reinforced beams. Abandoned stone became construction blocks. The trash of the dead quarry transformed into the bones of a fortress. Ethan worked without witnesses. He cleared the deepest chamber. He reinforced the ceiling. He installed hidden doors and narrow killing corridors. He built storage rooms behind false walls. He placed cameras inside carved stone housings. Wires ran through cracks where no villager would notice them. Motion sensors watched the entrance. Steel shutters waited above the passage. A control panel connected everything. The villagers feared ghosts. Ethan gave the quarry real ones. Speakers hidden in the tunnels whispered when intruders crossed marked paths. Lights flickered without flame. Metal traps sealed corridors. Anyone who entered without permission would become lost, terrified, and helpless before they ever saw his true base. The supermarket recognized the completed structure. Secure territory established. Territory management unlocked. The quarry map appeared in Ethan's mind. Every chamber glowed. Every entrance pulsed. Every object within the boundary could be stored, moved, repaired, or reinforced through credit. The power seemed minor. A storage ability. A convenient workshop. A tool for merchants. Ethan understood its real value. He placed his hand against a collapsed tunnel. Store. Hundreds of stones vanished. An open passage appeared. He stepped through. Then he released the stones behind an imaginary enemy. The tunnel filled in an instant. No escape. No warning. No need for strength. He tested it again with steel scraps. Store. Release. A storm of jagged metal exploded into a wooden target. The target disappeared beneath a wall of iron. Ethan's cold smile returned. The world would call his ability a merchant's blessing. He would turn it into an execution ground. He practiced until the movement became thoughtless. Store the earth beneath a target. Release stone above it. Remove a weapon from an enemy's hand. Fill a room with burning fuel. Open a wall. Close a throat. His so-called supermarket was not a pantry. It was absolute control over matter he owned or claimed. The quarry became his first domain. Anything within it belonged to him. He only needed more territory. More resources, more people. A kingdom did not begin with a crown. It began with locks, food, and fear. Mara brought the first recruit. Her brother, Jonah, lay unconscious in her arms. His skin burned. His breathing came in shallow rattles. Mara collapsed at Ethan's feet. You said he would live. I said he would live, if you succeeded. I learned everything. She pulled scraps of cloth from her coat. Names, rumors, guard schedules, hidden supplies, private arguments. The girl had collected more in a day than most spies gathered in weeks. Ethan lifted Jonah and carried him into the supermarket clinic. Mara froze at the doorway. Warm light touched her face. Rows of medicine stretched beyond sight, clean beds, glass cabinets. Machines humming with quiet power. She stared until Ethan spoke. Enter. Her knees nearly failed. What is this place? My property. Are we dead? No. Is this heaven? Ethan looked at her. Heaven does not charge interest. He placed Jonah on a bed. The system examined him. Malnutrition. Lung infection. Severe dehydration. No relic contamination. Treatable. Ethan paid the required credit. Medicine entered Jonah's body through a clear tube. Warm air filled his lungs. Color slowly returned to his lips. Mara watched with both hands over her mouth. Tears fell soundlessly. Ethan handed her a bowl of soup. Eat. She did not move. Why are you showing me this? Because you have reached the point where betrayal would be inconvenient. Fear entered her eyes. Ethan sat across from her. If you speak about this place, the elder will seize you. Marcus will torture you. The villagers will tear you apart before they ever find the entrance. Mara looked toward Jonah. I will never tell. Everyone says that before hunger. I mean it. Then prove it. Ethan placed a sealed package on the table. Inside was a black coat, sturdy boots, a knife, and a small radio. You work for me now. Mara touched the coat. It was warmer than anything she had ever worn. What do I call you? Ethan. She shook her head. You saved my brother. I purchased an asset. You gave us food. I purchased loyalty. You gave us a home. Ethan glanced toward the quarry walls. I need people who can follow orders. Mara lowered her head. Then I will follow them. He did not correct her gratitude. Gratitude was unstable. Training would make it useful. Over the following days, the quarry changed. Jonah recovered. Mara learned to operate the radios. She mapped the village from memory. She created coded names for homes and families. She learned how to hide food beneath ordinary trash. She learned how to lie without blinking. Ethan taught her to notice shoes, stains, breath, and hands. A person's mouth could lie. Mud on a boot could not. Grease beneath a fingernail could not. A full stomach could not hide its warmth from someone who knew where to look. Mara became his eyes. Jonah became his ears. The boy was small enough to disappear among hungry crowds. People spoke freely near children. They believed children were harmless. Ethan knew better. He added others carefully. A widowed blacksmith named Grant received antibiotics for his infected arm. In exchange, he repaired tools and created crude weapons from quarry metal. A healer named Alara discovered that the village elder had been diluting medicine with dirty water. She confronted him. He accused her of theft. Ethan's agents led her away before the guards arrived. Alara entered the supermarket clinic and stood speechless beneath the clean lights. Unlike Mara, she did not call it heaven. She examined the medicine labels. She studied the equipment. She asked precise questions. That made her valuable. You could save the entire village, she said. Ethan looked through a glass window at rows of supplies. I could. Then why do you not? Because the village would not become grateful. Alara's eyes hardened. People are dying. People were dying before I had this place. You have the power to change that. I have the power to choose. She stepped closer. What makes you different from the elder? The elder lies about what he is. Ethan placed a sealed bottle of medicine in her hand. I do not. Alara stared at him for a long time. Then she asked, what do you want from me? Competence. And, in return, food. Protection. A clinic. The freedom to save those I approve. She hated the final condition. He saw it. She accepted anyway. Her morality bent before necessity. Everything bent before necessity. That was the law of famine. Alara became the heart of the hidden settlement. Grant became its hands. Mara became its shadow. Jonah became its whisper. Ethan remained its will. The quarry grew beneath the mountain. Dormitories appeared. Water tanks filled. Hydroponic trays glowed beneath artificial lights. Vegetables rose from clean beds, while Blackridge villagers scraped moss from stones. Chickens clucked behind insulated walls. Freezers held meat. Shelves held fruit, flour, rice, sugar, salt, and coffee. A bakery oven produced fresh bread each morning. The scent never reached the outside. Ethan allowed no waste. Food scraps became animal feed or compost. Water was filtered and reused. Every resident worked. Every portion was measured. Every privilege had a price. No one starved. No one stole. The first thief lost access to warm meals for several days. The second thief was expelled. There was no third. Order became more nourishing than bread. The residents began calling the quarry Haven. Ethan disliked the name. He allowed it because names created belonging. Belonging created loyalty. Loyalty created an empire. Above ground, Blackridge sank deeper into madness. The chapel grain became the village's new currency. Marcus controlled its distribution for the elder. He wore a fur cloak stolen from a dead merchant. Clara wore Ethan's mother's necklace and walked through the square with guards beside her. Aunt Lydia moved into the largest room of Ethan's family house. They declared themselves protectors of the village. Those who praised them received grain. Those who questioned them received nothing. Marcus forced starving men to fight for handfuls. Clara threw kernels into the mud and laughed as mothers crawled after them. Aunt Lydia preached sacrifice while her table groaned beneath bowls of contaminated porridge. Their bodies changed. Marcus grew stronger at first. His muscles thickened. His wounds healed too quickly. He mistook corruption for power. Black veins appeared beneath his sleeves. He hid them. Clara's hearing sharpened. She could hear whispers through walls. She believed the heavens had blessed her. Aunt Lydia stopped sleeping. She spent nights speaking to someone beneath the floor. The elder watched them with envy. He ate more grain. The relic fed on all of them. Mara reported every change. Ethan listened from the quarry control room while eating a slice of hot pizza. On the screen, Marcus addressed the village. The famine chose the strong. Starving villagers knelt before him. Behind Marcus stood sacks of pale grain. The weak complain. The strong take what they deserve. Ethan bit through melted cheese. Marcus raised a fist. We will build a new Blackridge. Those who obey will eat. The crowd cheered because silence meant hunger. Clara stepped beside him. Her eyes had begun to turn gray. She smiled toward the villagers. We no longer need cowards like Ethan. Laughter spread through the square. Aunt Lydia shook her head sadly. My poor nephew abandoned his family. We tried to save him, but some people are born ungrateful. More laughter. Inside Haven, Mara reached for the radio. Ethan stopped her. Let them speak. They are lying. Lies are useful. How? They reveal what people wish were true. On the screen, Marcus lifted a bowl of chapel grain. He believed it was a crown. He believed the trembling in his hands came from strength. He believed Ethan was freezing alone in a woodshed. Ethan opened the territory interface. Haven's boundary had expanded through the quarry tunnels. Steel defenses were complete. Food reserves were overflowing. The workshop had produced crossbows, armor, traps, smoke bombs, and reinforced vehicles. The clinic was stocked. The residents were trained. A final notification appeared. Independent settlement recognized. Authority privilege unlocked. Within claimed territory, owner controls strengthened. Ethan looked at the mountains surrounding him. Stone, metal, water, heat, air, every piece marked as his. He closed his hand. Across Haven, steel doors slammed shut at once. Lights dimmed. Defensive shutters descended. Hidden weapons emerged from the walls. Then, his fingers opened. Everything returned to calm. The residents stared. No one spoke. They finally understood. The fortress did not protect Ethan. Ethan was the fortress. Far beneath the village chapel, something screamed. The sound traveled through the earth. Cups rattled in Haven's dining hall. Dust fell from the quarry ceiling. Alara looked toward Ethan. What was that? He finished the final bite of pizza. The price of their feast. On the village screen, Marcus suddenly stiffened. His bowl fell. Black grain scattered across the ground. The villagers rushed forward to collect it. None noticed the shadow moving beneath the chapel stones. None noticed the ground breathing. None noticed Ethan smiling from inside his hidden kingdom. Blackridge still believed it possessed the last food in the valley. It did not know that beneath the western mountain, warm ovens burned day and night. It did not know that the weak man it mocked commanded medicine, weapons, walls, and loyal hands. It did not know that every poisoned mouthful brought the real disaster closer. Marcus called himself the ruler of starving men. Ethan ruled abundance. Soon, the difference would become unbearable. The chapel bell rang without a hand touching it. Once, twice. Then it screamed. The iron split down the middle. A sound like a dying beast rolled across Blackridge. Every window shook. Every fire died. The villagers looked toward the chapel. The ground beneath it rose. Not cracked, rose, as if something enormous had pressed its spine against the earth. Marcus stood in the square with black grain scattered around his boots. His face went pale. Everyone stay calm. The ground rose again. The chapel doors burst outward. Wooden fragments tore through the crowd. A guard lost half his face. A woman was pinned against a wall. Children screamed. The starving villagers stampeded. Marcus grabbed the nearest man and threw him aside. Protect me. No one listened. The chapel floor collapsed. A black arm emerged from the pit. It was too long. Too thin. Its joints bent in directions no human body could survive. Rotten prayer cloth clung to gray flesh. Fingers scraped across stone. Where the nails touched, the rock turned black and began to pulse. Then the head appeared. It had no eyes. Its mouth opened from its chin to its chest. Inside were rows of human teeth. Hundreds of them. Some small. Some old. Some still wearing scraps of bloody gum. The creature breathed. Every person who had eaten the chapel grain fell to their knees. Marcus screamed. Black veins burst across his neck. Clara clawed at her ears. Aunt Lydia bit through her own tongue. The elder vomited a stream of black worms. The creature pulled itself from the earth. Its body was made from fused limbs. Faces moved beneath its skin. The missing villagers. The dead miners. The travelers who had vanished near the northern ridge. Their mouths opened together. Hungry. The word shook snow from the rooftops. The relic beneath the chapel had never been a treasure. It had been a seal. The grain had not survived the famine. It had grown from the thing below. Every mouthful had become an invitation. Every swallow had opened a path. Now the feast had come to collect its guests. The creature bent forward. A black tongue struck through the square. It wrapped around a family and dragged them into the open mouth. Their screams ended in a wet crunch. Blood sprayed across Marcus's fur cloak. He stumbled backward. Kill it. The guards raised spears. The creature exhaled. Gray mist swallowed them. Their skin sagged. Their eyes sank. Within breaths, the guards became dry corpses wrapped in armor. The crowd broke. People ran toward their homes. They slammed doors. They pushed furniture against windows. They prayed. They begged. They called for the elder. The elder was already crawling away. His fox fur dragged through blood. Marcus seized him by the ankle. Where are you going? The elder kicked wildly. Release me. You said the grain was safe. You ate more than anyone. You gave it to us. You demanded it. Marcus dragged him closer. The elder clawed at the ground. You greedy animal. You wanted power. You wanted the village kneeling at your feet. Marcus punched him. Bone cracked. The elder screamed. You knew. I knew nothing. You opened the chamber. You cleared the passage. They struck each other like starving dogs. The creature watched. Its mouth curved. It understood betrayal. It had planted the seed. Hunger had watered it. Now, Blackridge bloomed. Clara ran toward the house. Her hearing had become unbearable. Every scream stabbed through her skull. Every heartbeat sounded like a hammer. She heard whispers beneath the snow, voices inside the walls. Voices inside her bones. They repeated the same sentence. Eat them before they eat you. She reached the kitchen. Aunt Lydia stood over the hidden grain cellar. The floorboards had been torn open. Sacks filled the pit. More food than the family had admitted. Clara stared. You said we were running out. Aunt Lydia wiped blood from her mouth. We had to be careful. You gave Marcus full bowls. He is stronger. You hid this from me. I protected you. Clara heard the lie before the words finished. Her sharpened senses caught the pulse in her mother's throat. Fast. Afraid. Guilty. Aunt Lydia stepped between Clara and the sacks. We must take what we can carry. Clara smiled. It looked almost like Ethan's smile. Almost. She lifted a kitchen knife. Then you should carry less. Aunt Lydia's eyes widened. Clara, you said family shares. I am your mother. You said the young endure hunger better. I raised you. You fed Marcus. Clara drove the knife into her mother's shoulder. Aunt Lydia shrieked. They fell into the grain pit. Their hands tore at each other. Nails ripped skin. Teeth found flesh. The contaminated grain burst around them like black rain. Outside, Marcus crushed the elder's throat with both hands. The old man's legs kicked once, then stopped. Marcus stood. His breathing came fast. His body swelled. The black veins beneath his skin tightened like chains. He looked at the corpse, then at the villagers hiding behind doors. No one had seen him as a protector. No one had ever loved him. They had only feared his access to food. Now, the food had become poison. The fear had changed direction. Marcus roared. Come out. No one moved. I am still your leader. A shutter opened. A stone struck his face. Then, another. A woman screamed from a rooftop. You fed my son that grain. A man shouted from an alley. You took my winter wood. Another voice rose. You beat my father. More shutters opened. The starving villagers saw him alone. No guards, no elder, no sacks behind him. Only a frightened man wearing stolen fur. Their obedience died. Rage took its place. They poured into the square. Marcus backed away. You needed me. A farmer raised an axe. You needed us weak. Marcus lifted his fists. I can still feed you. With what? The creature screamed. Its arms swept through the street. Bodies exploded against stone. The mob scattered. Marcus ran. He did not help anyone. He did not look back. He sprinted toward Ethan's house. The woodshed door stood closed. For the first time, Marcus remembered his cousin. The weak one, the obedient one, the one who had vanished without taking anything. Marcus reached the door and struck it. Ethan. Silence. He struck again. Open. Nothing. The smell reached him. Warm bread. Roasted meat. Tomato sauce. Melted cheese. Marcus froze. His stomach twisted. The scent was impossible. Yet it flowed from the woodshed like a promise. He drove his shoulder into the door. It did not move. Ethan. His voice cracked. Behind him, the village burned. The creature crawled over rooftops. It swallowed people through chimneys. Its limbs reached through windows. Every death made its body larger. Marcus clawed at the door. I know you are inside. The door remained closed. His fingernails split. Blood streaked the wood. Please. The word came out before he could stop it. Marcus stared at his bleeding hands. He had never begged Ethan. Ethan had begged him. In the snow. Outside this same house, a memory struck him. A skeletal figure beneath the window. A weak hand scratching the wall. A voice asking for porridge. Marcus had laughed. Now the smell of pizza drifted through the cracks. His knees weakened. "Ethan, we are family." A steel horn sounded from the western mountain. The woodshed door opened. Marcus stumbled forward. There was no supermarket beyond it. Only darkness. Ethan stood inside wearing a black coat. His face was healthy. His shoulders were broader. A polished knife rested against his belt. Behind him waited Mara, Grant, Alara, and several Haven guards dressed in reinforced armor. Marcus stared. "You had food." Ethan stepped into the yard. Marcus looked past him. "Where is it?" Ethan closed the door. The smell vanished. Marcus's face collapsed. "You hid food while we starved. You hid food first. That was different." "Of course." The creature turned toward them. Its eyeless head tilted. The black veins beneath Marcus's skin pulled toward it. He screamed and grabbed Ethan's coat. "Save me." Ethan looked down at his hand. Marcus released him immediately. "You can fight it. That is your salvation." "What?" "The grain." Ethan glanced toward the monster. "You stole the opportunity from me. You became the village's chosen hero. You received the largest share." Marcus shook his head. "You tricked me. I warned you the work was dangerous. You knew." "Yes." Marcus's lips trembled. "You let us eat it. I gave you exactly what you wanted." The creature struck. A massive hand descended. Marcus threw himself aside. The yard vanished beneath black fingers. Ethan did not move. The hand stopped above him. Stone and snow lifted from the ground. They disappeared into empty air. The creature's wrist sank as the earth beneath it vanished. Its body tilted. Ethan raised one hand. The mountain answered. Hidden gates opened across the quarry. Steel beams appeared above Blackridge. Thousands of pieces. Rails, blades, chain. Broken mining tools. Everything Ethan had claimed. Everything he had stored. The sky became iron. The villagers looked up. Their screams faded. Ethan closed his fist. The steel fell. It did not scatter. It formed a single spear, a weapon larger than the chapel tower. It descended with a sound that crushed breath from every chest. The spear pierced the creature's skull. It drove through its throat, through its chest, through the chapel, through the buried relic. The ground exploded. Black fire erupted from the pit. The creature convulsed. Faces beneath its skin shrieked. Its limbs tore trenches through the streets. Ethan opened his hand. The stone beneath Blackridge vanished. A vast hollow appeared under the monster. It fell. Before it could climb, Ethan released everything he had stored from the quarry excavation. Rock filled the pit. Tons became mountains. Mountains became a tomb. The creature disappeared beneath crushing stone. Its scream traveled through the valley. Then stopped. Silence struck harder than thunder. Snow drifted through the air. The chapel was gone. The monster was gone. The black mist was gone. Only Ethan remained. His coat moved in the wind. The villagers stared from ruined homes. Some still held weapons. Others still clutched stolen food. Blood covered their faces. No one breathed. They had watched an abomination erase families with a touch. They had watched guards rot in moments. They had watched the strongest men run. Then, Ethan had buried it with a single gesture. Not a battle. Not a struggle. A decision. Mara stepped behind him and spoke into her radio. Haven perimeter secure. Voices answered from hidden positions. Marcus looked toward the mountain. Figures appeared along the ridge. Armored guards, crossbows, reinforced wagons. Floodlights cut through the snow. A convoy descended toward Blackridge. Clean. Organized. Powerful. The smell of fresh bread traveled with it. The villagers began to tremble. One woman dropped her axe. A man fell to his knees. Someone whispered Ethan's name. Then another. Then dozens. The weak cousin. The useless orphan. The starving fool. He had not disappeared. He had built a kingdom while they fought over poisoned grain. Clara crawled from the house. Blood covered her mouth. Aunt Lydia dragged herself behind her. One of her arms hung useless. They saw Ethan. They saw the convoy. They saw crates marked with symbols they did not understand. Food, medicine, water, blankets. More wealth than the village had possessed before the famine. Clara's face twisted. That belongs to us. No one agreed. Aunt Lydia staggered forward. My nephew. Ethan looked at her. She stopped. The warmth she planned to fake froze inside her throat. His eyes held no rage. Rage would have meant she mattered. There was only calculation. The villagers moved away from her. They understood before she did. Ethan had returned with enough food to save them. But salvation was not coming. Marcus grabbed Ethan's sleeve again. A Haven guard broke his wrist. Marcus screamed and collapsed. Ethan did not look down. He faced Blackridge. You chose your leaders. His voice was quiet. Every person heard it. You chose your grain. A mother pressed her starving child against her chest. We did not know. You did not care to know. The black spear remained buried in the ruins behind him. Steam rose from the shattered earth. Ethan continued. When I was weak, you called suffering justice. No one answered. When I had nothing, you called theft sharing. The village elder's corpse lay in the square. When I was hungry, you told me the young could endure. Aunt Lydia's knees buckled. Ethan smiled. Endure. The word cut deeper than a blade. The convoy gates opened. Haven guards distributed masks and medicine to Ethan's people. Not to the villagers. Warm soup was passed among those wearing Haven's mark. Not to the villagers. Bread cracked beneath clean knives. Not to the villagers. The smell filled Blackridge. Men wept. Women stared. Children reached out. Ethan watched every face. Their arrogance had vanished. Their contempt had rotted. They no longer saw an orphan. They saw a ruler standing between them and life. Marcus cradled his broken wrist. Please. Clara crawled closer. We made mistakes. Aunt Lydia began to sob. You are all I have left. Ethan turned toward Haven. The armored convoy followed. The villagers panicked. They surged forward. Guards lowered crossbows. The crowd stopped. Ethan glanced back once. Hundreds of starving people stood among the ruins. Behind them waited dead fields, empty cellars, contaminated grain, broken homes. Before them waited food, warmth, medicine, life. All controlled by the man they had thrown into a woodshed. Their terror became worship. Their regret became hunger. Their hope became a chain. Ethan smiled. The disaster had ended. Their judgment had not begun. The gates of Haven remained closed for 3 days. Blackridge watched smoke rise from the mountain. Every curl of it smelled like roasted meat. Every gust carried bread, herbs, butter, and coffee across the dead fields. The villagers sat among their ruined homes and breathed like starving animals outside a butcher's shop. No one had strength left to bury the dead. No one trusted the chapel grain. No one dared touch the black kernels scattered through the square. The surviving wells tasted of ash. The cold deepened. Children stopped crying. Their mothers feared that silence more than screams. Marcus remained near Ethan's woodshed. His broken wrist had swollen purple. He refused to leave. He stared at the door until his eyes bled from exhaustion. Clara sat beside the house with dried blood covering her dress. Aunt Lydia lay beneath a torn blanket, shivering from fever. They had once forced Ethan into the woodshed. Now they gathered around it like worshippers before a sealed shrine. The door never opened. On the 4th morning, the western gate moved. Steel groaned across stone. A column of Haven guards descended from the mountain. They wore clean black coats. Their boots were thick. Their faces were healthy. Each carried a weapon. Behind them rolled reinforced wagons. The smell struck Blackridge before the villagers saw what the wagons held. Soup, fresh bread, cooked meat. The crowd rose as one. Hundreds of hollow faces turned toward the road. People stumbled through snow. Some crawled, some carried dying relatives. Hope moved through them like madness. Ethan rode at the front. He sat inside an open wagon lined with dark wood. A table stood before him. On it rested a glass of red wine. Beside the glass waited a large pizza covered in melted cheese, roasted peppers, sausage, mushrooms, and thick slices of meat. Steam rose into the frozen air. The villagers stopped breathing. Ethan lifted one slice. Cheese stretched slowly. A child whimpered. A grown man began to sob. Ethan took a bite. The crust cracked. The sound was quiet. In Blackridge, it felt louder than thunder. The wagons entered the square. Haven guards formed a wall around them. The villagers stared at the pots of soup. They stared at the bread. They stared at boxes filled with medicine. Their bodies leaned forward without permission. Ethan finished chewing. Then he lifted the wine. Marcus pushed through the crowd. He fell before the wagon. His knees struck the frozen ground. Ethan. Ethan looked at him. Marcus bowed until his forehead touched the snow. I was wrong. The villagers watched. This was the man who had made them fight for grain. The man who had called himself their leader. The man who had beaten old men and starved children. Now, he crawled. Marcus lifted his face. Tears cut paths through the dirt on his cheeks. I was blinded by fear. Ethan drank. Marcus continued. The famine changed me. No. Ethan placed the glass down. The famine revealed you. Marcus flinched. I know I hurt you. Do you? I regret everything. Ethan picked up another slice. Marcus's eyes followed it. His mouth opened slightly. Ethan saw saliva gather beneath his tongue. Tell me what you regret. Marcus swallowed. I should not have taken your food. Which time? Marcus froze. Ethan bit into the pizza. The villagers remained silent. Marcus searched his memory. The grass. Ethan smiled. Only the grass? Marcus's breathing quickened. I should not have forced you into the woodshed. My father built that house. I know. You slept beside the fire. Marcus lowered his head. I know. You wore his coat. I know. You ate from his table. Marcus's voice broke. I know. Ethan leaned back. And when I scratched at the window, Marcus went still. Aunt Lydia covered her face. Clara looked away. The villagers did not understand. Not yet. Ethan's voice remained calm. What did you say to me? Marcus shook his head. I do not remember. You remember. I was starving. You were eating roasted meat. Marcus pressed his forehead against the ground. Please. Ethan's eyes cooled. Say it. Marcus trembled. I said you were already dying. And? Marcus's lips moved without sound. Ethan waited. No one dared breathe. Marcus finally whispered. I asked why we should waste food. Ethan nodded. The words returned exactly as they had been spoken. Not softened. Not hidden. Not forgiven. Aunt Lydia crawled forward. Her wounded shoulder had turned black around the edges. My poor boy. Ethan looked at her. She began crying harder. I failed you. You listened while I begged. I was afraid. You complained that the sound annoyed you. Her face collapsed. I did not mean it. You locked the door. Marcus made me. Marcus raised his head. That is a lie. Aunt Lydia pointed at him. You are the man of the house. You hid the grain. I protected the family. You protected yourself. They began shouting. Their grief vanished. Their hatred returned. Even on their knees, they searched for someone else to blame. Ethan watched without emotion. Clara crawled between them. She still wore his mother's necklace. The silver chain glimmered against her dirty throat. She reached toward Ethan. A guard placed a boot against her hand. Clara recoiled. Ethan, look at me. He looked. She forced a weak smile. We grew up together. You watched me die. Her smile shattered. This is not your old life. The words left her mouth before she understood them. Silence fell. Ethan's gaze sharpened. Clara realized her mistake. The contaminated grain had filled her dreams with memories that did not belong to her. She had seen him beneath the window. She had felt his final breath. She knew. Her hands began shaking. I only meant, you remember. No, you heard me. Clara shook her head wildly. I was confused. You wore that necklace while I froze. She touched the silver. Her fingers closed around it. This belonged to the family. It belonged to my mother. She would have wanted me to have it. Ethan laughed softly. The sound terrified her. You stole from a dead woman and invented her permission. Clara ripped the necklace from her throat. The chain cut her skin. She held it out with both hands. Take it. Ethan did not move. Take everything. She pulled rings from her fingers. She removed bracelets. She placed every stolen ornament in the snow. I do not need them. You killed for them. I was afraid. You lied for them. I was foolish. You watched others starve while you dressed yourself in their grief. Clara bent forward. I will serve you. Marcus looked at her in disbelief. She ignored him. I can work in Haven. I can clean. I can carry water. I can do anything. Ethan swirled the wine inside his glass. You once said I was born useless. Her face whitened. You remember that? I remember everything. I was angry. You said useless people did not deserve food. Clara gripped the snow. I was wrong. Ethan glanced at the pizza. Then you understand why I cannot waste food. Clara stared at him. The sentence reached into her chest and tore something open. She began screaming. Not loudly. Not with strength. It came out as a thin animal sound. Marcus seized her shoulder. Stop humiliating us. Clara slapped him. You brought the grain. You ate it. You gave it to us. You begged for more. Aunt Lydia lunged at both of them. Ungrateful monsters. I sacrificed everything. Marcus kicked her away. You hid food beneath the floor. Clara clawed his face. You always ate first. Their family collapsed into violence. They bit. They struck. They dragged each other through the snow. The villagers watched the people they once envied tear one another apart over blame. Ethan ate another slice. Warm cheese stretched between his fingers. A woman stepped from the crowd. Her son had died after eating chapel grain. She pointed at Marcus. He made us kneel for food. Another villager stepped forward. He took my tools. Another raised a trembling hand. Clara accused my wife of theft. A third spat toward Aunt Lydia. She traded my nieces to mercenaries. The crowd began to move, not toward the wagons, toward the family. Marcus saw their faces. Hatred surrounded him. He crawled behind Ethan's guards. Protect me. The guards did not move. Marcus grabbed one of their coats. The guard struck him across the mouth. Teeth scattered into the snow. Marcus fell. He looked up at Ethan. We are blood. Ethan's expression remained empty. Blood made you confident. I would keep forgiving you. Aunt Lydia dragged herself to the wagon. She clutched the wheel. Your mother was my sister. You robbed her grave. I raised you. You fed me scraps after taking my house. I loved you. You loved my obedience. Her fingers tightened around the wheel. You cannot let me die. Ethan leaned down. Her eyes brightened. For one desperate heartbeat, she believed mercy had arrived. He spoke softly. Stop scratching the door. Aunt Lydia froze. Those were her words. The exact words she had thrown through the wall while he died. Her mouth opened. Nothing came out. Ethan straightened. The Haven guards uncovered the wagons. Bread filled one. Soup filled another. Medicine filled a third. The crowd surged. Weapons lowered. They stopped immediately. Mara stepped forward with a ledger. Food will be exchanged for work, information, useful materials, and obedience to Haven law. A man shouted. We will do anything. Ethan looked across the village. Not everyone will be accepted. Panic erupted. People began denouncing one another. He served the elder. She hid grain. They helped Marcus. That family stole from corpses. Names flew through the square. Neighbors betrayed neighbors. Friends exposed friends. Spouses dragged secrets into the open. Hunger turned truth into a weapon. Ethan listened. Mara recorded everything. The worthy would receive work. The useful would receive shelter. The dangerous would be watched. The cruel would remain outside. No one would be saved merely because they begged. Blackridge had believed desperation erased guilt. Ethan taught them otherwise. Grant and the guards selected craftsmen, healers, hunters, laborers, and children without protectors. Ilera examined the sick. Those free from relic corruption received marked cloth bands. They were given soup. The first spoonfuls made grown men collapse in tears. The rejected watched from behind the guard line. Marcus watched a former servant receive bread. Clara watched a widow she had humiliated receive medicine. Aunt Lydia watched orphan children enter warm wagons. No bowl came to them. No band touched their wrists. Marcus crawled closer to Ethan. I am strong. You are contaminated. I can fight. You ran. I can serve. You betray everyone you serve. I can change. You had an entire lifetime. Marcus stared at the food. His eyes became empty. Then he lunged. Not at Ethan. At the pizza, his fingers reached the open box. Ethan moved the box aside. Marcus struck the wagon floor. A guard drove a blade through his hand. Marcus screamed. Ethan looked down at him. You once stepped on my hand for gathering grass. Marcus shook violently. Please kill me. No. Fear entered his face. Ethan turned to Mara. Seal the contaminated inside the chapel ruins. Clara screamed. There is nothing beneath there. There is hunger, Aunt Lydia begged. Marcus fought. The guards dragged them toward the shattered pit. Other grain eaters were pulled from the crowd. Their black veins had begun moving beneath their skin. The buried creature was dead. Its poison remained. Without the relic, the infected bodies consumed themselves. Their strength faded. Their teeth loosened. Their stomachs swelled while their flesh shrank. They would remain conscious. They would remain hungry. They would smell Haven's ovens whenever the western wind crossed the valley. Clara clawed at the snow. Ethan. He lifted his wine. I am sorry. Her nails tore away. I love you. He drank. Aunt Lydia screamed. Your mother would hate you. Ethan's eyes turned toward her. My mother died believing you would protect me. Aunt Lydia stopped struggling. Shame finally reached her. Not because of what she had done, because her final weapon had failed. Marcus twisted in the guard's grip. You think this makes you a king? Ethan looked toward the mountain. Haven's lights burned against the gray sky. Its walls stood unbroken. Its people ate. Its children laughed. Blackridge knelt beneath it. No, he smiled. This makes me alive. The infected were thrown into the ruined chamber. Steel shutters closed above them. Small vents remained open. Enough for air. Enough for sound. Enough for the scent of food. Marcus struck the steel. Clara called Ethan's name. Aunt Lydia prayed. Their voices followed the convoy as Haven's chosen survivors left Blackridge. The doors of the mountain opened. Warm light welcomed them. Behind, the rejected remained among the ruins. Some would work for entry. Some would steal and die. Some would learn. Some would not. Ethan stood on the highest terrace that night. Below him, Haven ate in silence. Fresh bread passed from hand to hand. Soup filled bowls. Children received fruit. Workers received meat. No one wasted a crumb. Mara approached with the silver necklace. We found this in the snow. Ethan looked at it. His mother's final possession. Once, he would have treasured it. Now it was only metal carrying the weight of a dead promise. Convert it. Mara hesitated. It belonged to her. It belonged to the past. She placed it inside the system chamber. The silver vanished. Credit appeared. Enough to purchase flour for many loaves. Ethan looked toward Blackridge. Faint screams rose from beneath the chapel ruins. Marcus, Clara, Aunt Lydia. They had food in their memories. Warm rooms in their memories. Power in their memories. Nothing else. Ethan lifted the final slice of pizza. The cheese was still hot. The wind carried its scent down the mountain. The screams became louder. He took a bite. His eyes reflected Haven's lights. Once, they had told him suffering was natural. Once, they had called cruelty necessary. Once, they had closed the door and listened while he died. Now, they understood the only law that had ever ruled them. Consequences did not arrive with thunder. They waited quietly. They remembered every word. And when the door finally closed, they remained on the hungry side.